Needless to say, it was quite the crazy day for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Suns fan base. The day started with the story that we knew was coming, finally dropping on ESPN. Then the Suns have to play a game. Yes, there was a game tonight. And they played the young and hungry 1-6 Houston Rockets. They came into the Footprint Center and left the same way that the 1-6 New Orleans Pelicans left, Matthew, and that is with a loss. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Tonight, this team seems like they're figuring some stuff out. There's a couple guys we'll talk about that look like they're getting their shot down, that we kind of hated on last podcast. But tonight was a great win for the Suns. I don't care who their opponent was. They came out and they seriously struggled a few times here or there, but it doesn't matter, man. They got it done, and we needed this win. Today was a very, very strange day, of course, to be a Suns fan, but hopefully I look as cool as the Suns played tonight with my backwards hat. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, man, you're bringing up the
I gotta switch it up a little bit. I only had like the two hats right now, so I'm like, because the other one has a green bill, so I can't wear it because of the green screen. So maybe I can wear it. It would look kind of cool, but yeah, just flipped it on the back. Who cares? Let's move on, huh? Let's not talk about my hat.
Well, there's plenty to discuss on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. So first and foremost, we thank the Jamsters who are watching along live with us on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook. We tip our cap to you. Oh, Matthew can't do that because his hat's on backwards. Up there we go, tipping it backwards. Yoink. And if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you're absorbing this content, please subscribe, rate, and review while you're there. And again, YouTube, hit that thumbs up button while you're here. Plenty, obviously, to talk about after the Suns defeat the Houston Rockets by a score of 123-111. And finally clicked. It finally looked like they were clicking. They went through kind of some spurts during this game in which their offense went stagnant, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Matthew, I know you got to pop open an ice cold brew.
I think I only have like 5 left.
God
they're
bless
in here.
What do you Coors Light?
Just pretty much
so
water.
It's funny.
Right?
So it says tap the Rockies, Coors Light, right?
Is that their motto?
Well, I mean,
cold as the Rockies, right?
Okay. If I look out my window right now, the Rockies are right there. I'm right up.
My God. I forgot where you were.
Yeah. I'm in Colorado Springs right now, which is the center of anti-vax America and anti-mask America. It's like this weird little city where it's beautiful here. It's absolutely beautiful. Pikes Peak's right here. There was some snow on top of it when I landed yesterday. And it's this beautiful little place. But as I was walking around, it's just like, when I was asking somebody, I'm like, so what's the deal here? Because, as you travel around a lot, you kind of just, that's the question you ask. What's the deal? Like if I walk into a Target here, what's going to happen?
What's the deal here?
Yeah. What's the
deal?
deal?
You ask somebody that?
Always. Every time I go somewhere, if I'm in Reno, if I'm in Vegas, if I'm in Spokane, Washington, or Lodi, California, I'm like, what's the deal here? If I go into Target, like, what's going to happen? And the guy I was talking to, he's like, dude, this is like anti-vax conspiracy theory part of America. I'm like, oh, cool. That's nice. So I'm staying in my hotel room.
It's okay. Did you give him one of our cards though? That's the most important thing.
I have a little story here in a second about promoting the podcast, but go ahead and crack open that ice cold beer. Yes, please. All right, Suns fans, let's talk about this win. Our third in a row now, 4-3 for the Phoenix Suns. Cheers. It was a total team victory for your Phoenix Suns this evening as they defeat the Houston Rockets by a score of 123-111. But before we stop there, we got to address it.
Matthew, I got to ask.
So obviously today, Matthew, a lot of news broke. And I got to, ask, when the story came through officially, and we've addressed this a little bit on the podcast, but I'll ask you this. When you heard the news and when you see Woj tweeting nonstop about the story relative to Robert Sarver, the allegations of his racism, his misogynistic behavior, did you feel embarrassed to be a Suns fan when you heard the news?
Oh, no, not at all. This has nothing to do, I feel like, with being a Suns fan. for the longest time, no one's like Sarver, of course, right? But this is a little bit different. This is actually quite a bit different from everything else of him being cheap. Everything that's been put out today, I didn't get to look at it till maybe afternoon. I kind of put it in my back pocket, and I was thinking like, all right, I just got to sit down and wait for everything to come out at once and really go through it. But how my thoughts, though, I mean, my reaction to it doesn't matter. I mean, I can never grasp the situation that they live in a world where this guy basically runs the Suns, and for the longest time there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and obviously people are just sick of it. They're sick of the bullshit, putting up with people that get away with this stuff, and he's one of them, right? And people just nowadays, and it's been happening for a while now, where they are just sick of the bullshit. They're sick of being treated like crap. The suicidal thoughts is something that should never happen, but it does happen because of situations that this guy put people in. And I think it's very positive to go forward with this, and I think it's positive for the league, for the Suns, in the Phoenix community, where we can get this over with. It's been going on since January, right? The interviews.
Yeah.
So for it to come down to this, it's going to be a long process. Woj says it's going to be a long, long process of figuring everything out. I just think it's a good step forward for the Suns. And you said, are you embarrassed to be a Suns fan? No, because I would rather this happen than keep covering up for years and years and years. You know what I mean? So this is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I hear you 100% on that, and I agree with you. It's a good step in the right direction. We don't know, they are just allegations at this point. But I mean, when you start to go through that article, and it's just like situation after situation of just jackassery. It's kind of like the guy who's running the circus is a clown himself. And again, we don't know necessarily if that's true, because a lot of the argument or the article was kind of hearsay. You had a lot of Earl Watson quotes, and it's clear that Earl Watson was very frustrated with his time there. And then, of course, every quote that he had, Robert Sarver and the Phoenix Suns were denying. And the Phoenix Suns even put out a statement today that said, like, listen, this reporter, Baxter Holmes for ESPN, wanted to start this narrative last year, didn't really catch, so he's trying to put more fluff around his initial narrative to smear Robert Sarver and the Phoenix Suns. So you kind of have a lot of mudslinging going on back and forth. And again, obviously, if any of these allegations are true, if one of these allegations are true, like, nobody deserves that, dude. You don't go to work to have a guy depants you in front of 60 of your coworkers. You don't go to work to be put down, if you're pregnant and being, just all the stupid shit that he did. You don't go to work to be called the N-word. I mean, so if any one of these allegations are true, hopefully the NBA can act appropriately on that. My fear is they might not have the capability to, just because like this isn't a Donald Sterling situation. Like Donald Sterling, you had hard freaking evidence, and in this case, you don't have that. It's a lot of hearsay. It's a lot of he said versus she said, and you're dealing with a billionaire. So it's like you never, life's not fair. It's just not fair, But I will say, although it doesn't, necessarily make me feel embarrassed to be a Suns fan, the moment that it happened was kind of embarrassing, because I was actually at one of the accounts today. One thing that I'm a food and beverage director, and I'll be a food and beverage director over a couple of independent living communities in Scottsdale that currently are under construction. So that's why I'm traveling so much right now. I'm going to all our other accounts and helping. I'm training. I'm helping them with point of sale systems and things of that nature. And I was actually at the bar today inside one of these communities, and there was a four top of, independent living folks who were sitting there, and I had a TV up behind me and I didn't know what was on it. And I was just kind of anytime I walk into any one of these communities, I'm the new guy, because these are communities. So somebody new walks in, I kind of get the, hey, who are you? So I was having that conversation. Somebody's like, hey, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm John. I'm going to be the director of dining services in Scottsdale. And they're like, and one guy's like, oh, Phoenix? I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, are you a Suns fan? And I was like, this is going to be a great conversation. I'm like, yeah, I am actually. I have a podcast that I do about the Suns. I'm a huge Suns fan. And he's like, well, it appears that your owner's racist. And he points to the TV, and up behind me, the story's breaking on ESPN. Yeah. And in that moment, I felt embarrassed as a Suns fan. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is, ridiculous. And of course, my embarrassment has no comparison to what anybody who's going through anything in that organization or who has left the organization. But still, in that moment, yeah, I felt a little, just like a jackass for being a fan of the Suns. But at the same time, we did have a game tonight, and it's good to kind of be reminded of the good things, the positive things about this organization. And, we go up, we play against Phoenix or the Houston Rockets. And, it was a fantastic start for this team. The first team, they were hitting threes. Ayton was getting, he was sealing the interior on Shingen or whatever the guy's name is, and he was scoring down low. He was utilizing solid screens, which is something that, we missed in the last game. And I had pointed out, I'm like, this team is slipping their screens too much. Well, Ayton was out there and he was holding his ground, which was nice to see. And then you saw Booker using his full arsenal, going inside, going outside, actually hitting threes. And then, of course, Mikal was looking like a straight-up star. And that first quarter, the Phoenix Suns, although they did ultimately give up 30 points, they scored 36. And that's exactly what I wanted to see from this team right out of the gate, especially considering there's a lot of whirlwind shit going around this team right now.
Yeah, you wanted the strong start. That's one thing I feel like the Suns team really hasn't done this season. The strong starts, 14-2 run, getting out to a 17-6 lead, but a lot of it was really the fast breaks, and just one guy, Deandre Ayton, who is getting the ball in the first and third quarter. That's a big part of it. When the offense struggles, DA's there, and it's good to have him back after missing one game. So I don't know, you want to drop it?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely that time.
Ayton watch.
I missed Ayton watch last podcast. We didn't have one. So, yeah, tell me what you saw from DA in his return after a 1 1/4 game absence.
Well, the Mr. What the fuck is that, Ayton? You didn't hear it the first time, you heard it the second time. Sorry,
it was
Dad,
great on the broadcast.
Yeah, so it was perfect. And
so tell the Jamsters who didn't actually see the game and they're just listening to the pod. Tell them about what you're referencing.
So the last play that DA's even in there, he goes up against, I forget, maybe it was Christian Wood or whoever. The Jamsters will let me know. And he goes up, contests a shot, and probably wasn't a foul. After they called a foul against him, he turned around to the ref and said, "What the fuck?" And he has some shake in his body too. Like, "What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that?" He said it twice. And again, sorry, Dad, I used that language, but this is what the guy said on the court, and it led to a technical. So he's going to come out of the game, and he got a technical. So he's learning from Book. At least he's learning something from Booker, right?
If you're going to get number 6 and you're on the way out the door, you might as well get your money's worth, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he got a lot of touches early. And the good thing is, you're going against the Rockets, and if he wasn't going to play, we said Christian Wood, these guys might, have a good game. They might have their game in the paint against whoever, McGee or Frank Kaminsky. But with Ayton back, he had the advantage. And that's one thing last year we didn't see consistently is the advantage. Is he going to take advantage of these teams that are weak down there? And he did. He absolutely did up against the rookie. He did a fantastic job on the defensive end, offensive end. He was getting touches constantly in the first and third quarter, which really set up the Suns' offense both times. So seeing that was great because missing last game did suck because I want to see the consistency between him and Chris Paul. And then you saw Chris Paul giving him the ball a lot and certain areas where you didn't really see it ever before. So they're opening something up, and this is really fun to watch because it's something you really haven't seen yet between the two. So if this continues, it's actually something. It's something that they've been working on, and now it's actually transforming into something that's an actual gameplay. So it's pretty fun to watch, dude. It makes me happy. It makes me excited. These two might figure something out.
Oh, big time, man. And again, I know it's the lowly Rockets who have a very weak front line. But again, these are the games where I feel like in the past, Deandre Ayton would just disappear. The games where you go against Jokic, all of a sudden DA's playing great, and you're like, well, why can't you do that when you got Shingen on you, and Christian Wood, who's not known necessarily as an elite defender in any way, shape, or form? Why can't we have those aggressive games or the games where the Suns game plan for just that, being like, hey, DA has a mismatch, let's take advantage of that. Yeah. And I feel like in this game, they definitely did. I mean, you look at the box score alone, he had 17 shot attempts, which was one shy of Devin Booker's 18, which led the team. And that's what you want to see from DA. You want to see those shot attempts again. Everybody who is the casual Suns fan will reference the box scores and be like, well, DA's not scoring a lot of points, especially last season. And you look at it and you're like, well, look deeper into the box score. You see he's averaging 12 attempts a game. Like, it's hard to put up, 24 points a game unless you hit every one of your 12 shot attempts. But in a game like this, he did go 8 for 17. He had 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 1 block. And that's another thing we'll get to here in a bit. It's just the block party that was going down tonight. But And you know, the one frustrating aspect, if you want to throw it in there, is he was missing a lot of little bunny jumpers inside 7 feet. You know, he's doing little hook shots and he was just missing them, but he was taking them, and that's what's important.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, someone brought that up too. The little bunnies, Low Suns, DA just missed some bunnies, but he's getting the opportunities down there,
and
he's not
taking
passing out of them.
Yes.
So that's another thing. It's easy shots, but how often have you seen games like this where he takes that many bunny hooks? Not a lot.
Not this many.
He'll be comfortable with it coming soon. If he continues to get the ball like this, it's awesome, dude. I loved it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that frustrated me about DA today was in the third quarter, they finally start feeding him. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. Like, DA doesn't get any love or any action in the third quarter. He's finally getting field goal attempts. And then he goes and he gets his fourth foul with 7 minutes left in the quarter. And he's cooking at that point. He's missing the bunnies in the first half. In the second half, he's starting to hit everything. And then he gets pulled from the game because he puts himself in a bad position by getting that fourth foul. And, you know, again, that's just kind of that maturation process for him, is to understand, like, listen, you're cooking. They can't stop you right now. So you need to go ahead and do everything you can to stay in this game and ensure that you can help this team just continue to slaughter essentially the opposition. And you just play smart, if you will. You know, if you look at DA's third quarter, just how he performed alone, he was 4 for 7 in that quarter with 16 points. Is that right? No, it's Devin Booker. 4 for 5, I'm sorry, for 8 points. And that's in the first 4 minutes of the quarter, 5 minutes of the quarter, because he only played, 4:51 in the quarter, and then, he's in foul trouble. So that was my one gripe with his performance. But outside of that, like, I love aggressive DA. I love if DA's fouling out of the game. One, there were some bullshit foul calls, but you know what? It is what it is. But if he, like, we kind of let off Ayton watch. If you're going to go out, man, yell, what the fuck was that? What the fuck? Go get it, earn it.
Yep.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. I waited to show up the ref, and as soon as he let the first one go, I'm like, this is a T. And then the second one, I'm like, oh, this is definitely a T. But I love to see it. You can see the grins on the faces from his teammates on the bench. Just thinking it's funny, because it is funny. It's kind of cute whenever he gets all rambunctious and gets all a little upset. The guys probably think it's funny to watch. So
no, without a doubt. Coda Kid, one of our elite jamsters. If you want to become an elite jamster, you can simply press that join button on our YouTube page or follow the link in the description. He says Deandre and Cam Johnson are my favorite sons, and I love DA, but I gotta say, man, like, my favorite son, I think it's officially changed, man. I think it has finally changed. The Warden. I mean, he just continues, 16 points on 7-11 shooting, highly efficient, 3 rebounds. He just reminds me so much of that Swiss Army knife. And I know I've referenced this a little bit on previous podcasts, but it continues to grow every game. I'm like I have a Valley Mikal Bridges shirt. Like, I want to get a jersey. And, I'm a 39-year-old dude. I have no business wearing a jersey, but, like, I want to support Mikal Bridges, man. I'm so in love with the way that he plays basketball right now, how he plays it on both ends. He ends the night. He had 1 block as well, and as I mentioned, only 3 rebounds, but he kind of got the scoring started. I think he had like 8 points in the first quarter. And I mean, he was just a couple threes. He's slashing. He's hitting. He's getting out on fast breaks. Devin Booker's throwing alley-oops to him. It's like him and Devin Booker. I'm trying to think, because they alone could be, Bridges and Booker, the Killer Bees. I know the Killer Bees is a nickname that's been used all over the place, but Mikal and Devin, MD, Doctor, the Doctor duo. I don't know. There's something there, because those two guys are the scoring future of this franchise. Deandre Ayton's going to be the defensive anchor who's going to get you those points, but those are the two guys that make this team really go, and that's what you're starting to see early on this season.
Yeah, you have to, and I feel like I have the same response every pod, where you just got to keep getting in the ball. And the runouts he has, where he's beating everybody else down the court, that's the one thing I feel like is kind of underlooked from his game. It's easy buckets. He's making the game easier for himself from playing good defense and getting out running and finding a lane to where people can find him. I mean, how many alley-oops has he really had this year? A lot. I mean, probably more than last year, where he's on the other side of the floor and just ready for the pass, because he's meeting these guys, his teammates, down the court at the same exact time, or he's beating them down there for the easy dunk. And defensively, he's always there, of course. Offensively, his 3 is going to go in almost what is he, 43% right now, almost all the time, which is a great number to have from three. His mid range looks good. Everything is just really, really great about this guy. And I honestly think that there's something that it might be missing with him. Oh no, I'm just kidding. He's actually perfect. He's a perfect player right now.
Yeah,
for the Suns.
I mean,
He's
you
doing
think about it,
everything.
you go, okay, what are Mikal Bridges' weaknesses just right now? Okay, as he begins his fourth
Maybe
year in
his
the league.
beard.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
You know,
Better
it's
than my
not
beard,
as
though.
it's not as solid as Devin Booker. It's great because for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see behind Matthew, he has a zoomed in Devin
Jam star of the
Booker,
game.
and that's from Craig A. Hamill, correct?
Yep, correct. Little
So
close-up
again,
shot of Book.
Exactly. So once again,
Yeah.
shout out to Craig A. Hamill on Twitter. You can follow him, Scotland's best and greatest Suns fan, both from a support standpoint and from the ability to create artwork. And if you want your picture and or artwork up behind Matthew, just hit us up on Twitter at SunsJam. We'll throw it up on there. So that might be his only weakness, though, is like his beard game. You know, like he had that one play at the end of the game where, you know, he again fast break, and again with Mikal, he's so damn long that you put it out there. One, he'll go gadget arms, grab it, and then he'll beat the defender up there. You know, we talked a lot about this last year. There was a moment kind of mid-season where all of a sudden Mikal Bridges realized, like, oh, if I go to the rim, like I'm longer than the defender and I can put the ball in the basket before he can even get there to defend it. And now you're starting to see that on fast breaks. And then he starts doing that like jogging in place thing. And he's just having so much fun doing it. I mean, this is another game in which he's displayed that behavior, and it's consistent. We're not having those inconsistent games with Mikal Bridges. He's averaging like 16 points a game, and he does it in a fun and effective manner. And again, I just like, he might be my favorite Phoenix Sun right now.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been your favorite Phoenix Sun for a while, right? Like, what was the switch between? Was it just... It was always Mikal, I thought, from last year, right?
Well, not like I love Ayton, man. I really do. Like, I love having a big man who I love defense. I mean, a lot of my Arizona Cardinals jerseys are defenders, you know, just because I like defense, because I feel like it's harder. Defense is so hard. So when you have, I mean, you look at the Rockets. The Rockets are a team full of great offensive players. Christian Wood, although he didn't have the greatest offensive night, he went 8 for 18 and 15. But Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Kenyon Martin Jr. coming off the bench, Eric Gordon. I mean, a lot of these guys are amazing offensive players, and the NBA is full of amazing offensive players. But when you have you know, guys who can play defense, when the guy makes an all defensive team, that's a special player. And Mikal Bridges and Deandre Ayton, that's why I love both of them. And you know, I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, so I obviously love Devin Booker, but like, he doesn't play defense with the same intensity that both Bridges and Ayton do.
No.
Yeah, 2018. What a great draft for the Suns.
I know. And honestly, it's something too where it's every game. It's just so consistent. You don't even care anymore. I mean, it's going to get to a point where you're just not going to care because it's going to be there all the time. We're going to always talk about other players, I feel like, this season, because Mikal's stats, his game is always going to be there. That's why I run out of material. And I'm just like, keep giving him the ball. When Booker and Chris Paul aren't really finding it, I think Booker, of course, had a great game tonight. Go to Mikal, go to DA. Those are your two guys that you really need to focus more on offensively, because they're going to get you really great looking shots down low in the paint, wherever on the court, even the mid range, wherever they're at. Dude, they'll figure it out themselves. Just get them the ball.
Well, and then there's another guy who he earned his drop back, Matthew. He earned the drop back.
All I can say is, Sham, wow.
Now, I don't know if I said this. I wrote this in my notes on the last podcast, but I don't know if I said it. Did I say that I would not play that drop again until he scored more than 15 points?
I don't remember that. Sometimes I don't even listen, though. So.
Yeah, true. Well, like, I know I definitely wrote it down. I think that we talked about him, and I forgot to say it, but that's what I had in my notes. And then he goes out tonight. That's Landry Shamet, and he drops 19 points on 5 of 9 shooting, 4 for 8 from downtown, 5 for 5 from the free throw line. So he's also getting to the line. Also threw in 4 assists and had a steal. And he finally became a Phoenix Sun, I feel like, tonight. A big part of this victory for the Phoenix Suns is when your bench players come out and perform effectively. You have him lead the all bench scoring with 19. JaVale McGee had 11, and Cameron Johnson had 12. But Landry Shamet finally looked the way that we expected him to. And you'd mentioned on the last podcast how you didn't think he was shooting confidently. He looked confident tonight, didn't he?
Yeah, he had that bend in his body. You know, the release where he's just bending towards the basket. You can tell when a guy is confident. Booker had that a few times tonight too, to where the release and everything just bends perfectly. And he's like, "This is going to go in, or it's just going to like go in and out." You know, And tonight was a perfect game for him to really come back and get better because you're playing a lesser opponent. You want to come in and kind of prove something. You saw the look on his face at the end of the game, just a nasty look, like I'm back. Like this is what I'm earning my money. I finally had a good game, and he put up some hard looking threes, dude. The threes that he was shooting, the ones that went in, they were kind of contested, but he was just, so like you said, very, very confident in his shot. He's like, I got to get a good game going here. I can't go any further after this homestand. I can't go on the road and just, put up clunker after clunker. I have to get something going off the bench. In the first half, he didn't look as good. Him and Nader were kind of getting a little on my nerves, but he did get to the free throw line. The first 5 free throws for the Suns were made by Shamet, so that's a good way to get in rhythm. Ask my stepdad, EJ, if you want to get in rhythm, get to the line or get to the rim. You got to do that, and that's what he did. So I think that really helped his whole game tonight.
Yeah, see the ball go through the hoop. It's kind of cliche, but it's definitely valuable. It's cliche for a reason. You mentioned the look on his face. I think I finally figured out who he looks like. You ready for this? Do you know who Waluigi is?
Yes, I do.
He kind of has a Waluigi look to him, like when he looks, kind of, he's got the long chin.
Are we insulting these guys again?
Probably. And I was just thinking about it today. I'm like, because I always think like Landry Shamet definitely looks like somebody. Jamsters, you can let me know in the chat. I'm probably an idiot again. But I think
comparisons.
I can kind of see it. Like when he looks angry, he kind of gets this Waluigi from Super Mario on his face from Super Smash Brothers. So, just
why does he have the pink nose, Waluigi? I just never noticed that till right. Why is it pink? Is he just so mad?
I guess he gets so pissed off that he's
a lot of alcohol. So.
he's the drunk version of Luigi. I guess that's what it is.
That's what it is.
But again, our Rag MMA, careful, don't get canceled in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, we did it with McGee last podcast. I don't know, man. We're getting pretty close to being canceled.
Oh, I know.
I'm surprised I haven't been yet. So,
well, I mean, there's I forget the name of the reporter, but there's a guy who has a podcast about Arizona State football, and he was critical on a podcast.
I saw that.
Yeah, and then they canned him. It's just like, God forbid you have an opinion these days. If it doesn't agree with the narrative, you better pack your bags and just sit around and just talk about how everything is roses. And that's what you get at the Suns Jam Session. We keep it real, a little too real.
We do.
You know?
But not too real.
Not too real.
Well,
we're talking about Landry Shamet looking like Waluigi. Like, come on, we're just having a good time.
Pretty simple kid fun.
That's who we are and what we do. Obviously, we have to bring up the fact that good old Abdul Nader got minutes again tonight, had 11 minutes, went 0 for 2 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, had 2 rebounds, 2 steals, and 1 turnover. And again, I just think those minutes would have been better served with sticks, man. Maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, they had that one fast break play, and it's Nader, and he's got Cam flanking him on the left side, and it's a 2-on-1, and Nader's like, fuck this, I'm going for it. He does, and he gets blocked. And I'm just like, come on, man.
Yeah, Nader, let me write some good notes about you for once. I mean, there's just things defensively. You're down on the block early in the game, and you draw a foul, and it's just you're trying to block a guy that's 7 feet tall down there, and it's just you shouldn't be down there doing anything. McGee's down there. Let McGee do the work. There's a lot to where he's out of place still. Like you said, he's a kind of a ball hog on fast breaks. He's always trying to lay it in. Has always a really bad angle. I don't know how he practices his angles off the glass. Usually guys, when there's, like a Stephon Marbury, there's always those guys that really know where to find the spot on the backboard.
Elfrid Payton.
And he just kind of bricks it up there. So I think he's just trying to draw fouls. And the sticks thing is still kind of weird. Like he played one game, looked pretty decent. Now he's not getting anything, didn't get his contract. So that's a weird situation. So I don't know if they're just staying away from him because of that. Maybe Sticks doesn't want to play. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
I know.
But I just don't understand the Nader thing still. All right. We'll never understand it.
Well, I can
might understand life before we understand the Nader thing.
I'm going to understand and grasp infinity and the universe before I understand why Monty Williams has this love affair with Abdul Nader and wants to give him minutes. And I get it. It's like John Humble says in the chat. He says, I love Nader. Sorry. He has gas, excellent energy.
That's
and
fine.
I get that. I mean, I was on Nader Island or Nader Isthmus or whatever body of land surrounded by water you want to talk about when it comes to funny little quips about these guys. I was a big fan of Abdul Nader last year, but the more I watch him, the more I think that he's just not a beneficial part of this team. And if his minutes are utilized with Jalen Smith, you can either utilize Smith and grow him to something that could be an asset that works for you in a trade, or beneficial to the team, or B, just let the kid have an opportunity. I mean, Nader can't be worse, or Sticks can't be worse than Nader in these situations, because like you said, Nader gets the ball, it's a black hole. It's like having Kelly Oubre but not as talented around the rim, right?
No, I think so. I don't know what he is. Honestly, there's no really the real comparison. It's like a Barbosa that can't really lay it in. That's what he reminds me of, just the way his play is. Barbosa that can't, make a shot. So
yeah, I mean, so again, I had to bring it up again, because it's a mystery. And it's funny because I wrote that piece for brightsideofthesun.com. It felt like Monty read it for one game. He's like, here you go, here's your Sticks minutes, John. And then he just went right back to Nader,
and
because
go back to it.
And I think it's just because, we don't truly have a backup to Mikal Bridges. And that's why I've made the case, like, make Cam Johnson the backup to Mikal Bridges, and then instead of having Cam Johnson be the backup to Jay Crowder, you have Jalen Smith fill those minutes. But Monty, he's like, listen, we don't have a true backup to Mikal Bridges, so it's going to be Nader. And you Nader haters can sit there on your little podcast and talk all you want. You're not going to get what you want. You're getting Nader, baby. You're getting Nader. What about Elfrid Payton? 6 points on 3 of 4 shooting, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and I was kind of dogging on him on the last podcast, and I realized why I was dogging on him. When it comes to Elfrid Payton, first of all, like, have you ever played the game Around the World?
Yes, I sure have.
All right, so I'm sure everyone knows how Around the World starts. You start around, the key, and you have to hit shots, and you generally progress to the 3-point line, and you got to come all the way back around the world. I feel like Elfrid Payton's the guy who's like the champion of inside, but once you put him out by the 3-point line, like, you can beat him because he just can't hit shit. But I think that, like, I was hating on him, and he gets a lot of just eye rolls and frustration from Suns fans in the wake of Cameron Payne not being out there, just because he's kind of boring. It's like I said on the last pod, he's very, very predictable, but you watch his game and it's kind of boring. But tonight, again, it was effective because he was looking for his teammates, and he wasn't focused on just scoring tonight.
Yeah, he's very basic. And I mean, there's nothing better than basic sex, right? So he's out there, he's doing the basic stuff, getting the job done. That's what I think he does. He seriously will just go out there, and he'll be a guy that wants to get his teammates involved. I know, like, he gets in the lane, but I just never really found myself upset with him ever. Like, I don't have a lot of expectations. I know before the season I was really high on him. I just thought he was like the best third point guard on a team. And it kind of looks like he might be, because he's been helping the Suns second unit more than I thought he would. He had last game wasn't too great, but still, I don't think he's doing too much to ruin it. He's not doing too much to ruin the offense. More times than none, I think the players are dropping the ball when he's setting them up. I see that more coming off his passes than any other player that's trying to set somebody up. So he's doing a lot, man. I enjoy him on the court. It's to the point to where he comes in, he plays. I don't notice it too much. So that might be a good thing too. I don't notice his play until he sets somebody up. And I know I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, he's on the floor now, and he's trying to find people, and he's doing his best, getting in the paint, he has a little floater thing too. He makes these kind of awkward looking shots sometimes, but you could tell that's something he practices and something that, Coach Monty will allow. And he's a perfect third point guard, man. And Cam Payne, yeah, when he comes back, he'll get those minutes probably, but right now he's holding a spot. He's holding it down.
It's not a probably. Like, he will get those minutes back.
Did I say probably?
Yeah, you said he'll probably get those minutes back. It's like, no, it's 100% Cam Payne will get those
I know.
back. And they were interviewing him before the game, and he said he might be able to play on Saturday against the Hawks, and I think that Suns fans obviously are going to be excited for that. But again, tip your cap, whether it be frontwards or backwards, to the effort that Elfrid Payton has put in with Cameron Payne on the bench, because coming from an organization that over the last 5 years hasn't had a ton of really good point guard play. I would say last 7 years, because we've had really good point guard play this year in the last 2. But people like Elfrid Payton started for us at one point. Now he's our backup who's filling minutes for an injured guy. And you know what? The Suns have been winning with him in there. So you have to give him a nod for his efforts and the way that he sets up his teammates and the way he plays. He does play defense. He does get those rebounds. Looking at the Rockets team, how do you feel about this Rocket team? Now that you've kind of seen them in person, seen them play, Were you scared at any point that the Suns could lose this game? Because there was a prolonged period of time in which the Suns gave up the lead. The Suns were outscored 31-20 in the second quarter, and we're down, I think, 5 or 6 at halftime. Yeah. And really we're having a hard time kind of clawing back until about 5 minutes left in that third quarter. And then they just kind of took off like a rocket, dare I say, and beat them. So, tell me kind of what your thoughts are on the Rockets, and were you scared at any point in this game on whether or not the Suns were going to win or lose?
Yeah, I definitely, this season so far, I'm scared they're going to lose every game. I don't go into every game very, very happy and very excited to watch this team as I did, of course, last season, just because you don't know what to expect. You don't know if this is the game they're going to come back and actually put something together, which they did tonight. There were some times I was like, maybe the Rockets would actually take over, and then the Suns can't get anything going offensively until they, go back to Deandre Ayton like you should do, and then get back into the game with Booker finishing it off. I think this Rockets team is actually really fun to watch. Who knows how long they'll be together? Of course, like EJ even said, like Eric Gordon might be a name that be traded.
Oh, without a doubt.
Wood's always a guy for the last 20 years that's going to be traded at the deadline or, sign with a new team in free agency. So, but Jalen Green, pretty freaking raw. You just don't know what to expect from him every night. But they have a good young team. Kevin Porter looked good. It's a fun team to watch. They're very, very aggressive. They're very aggressive getting to the rim and throwing it down very, very hard and trying to make a statement. That's their kind of way of trying to get into games, right? It's just to play aggressive and just show, we know we're not going to be good this year, but we're going to do our best out there to show you that we can actually still ball and hang with these teams. And they did with the Lakers the other night too. So early in the season, you're going to see this with the Rockets. And then it's going to kind of be like, all right, well, the tank is starting now, and then maybe 40 games in they'll be starting the tank. But right now they're going to play every team to the end, I think, and fun team to watch.
No, without a doubt. Any team that has a lot of offensive firepower is really fun to watch. I think that's why the Oklahoma City Thunder last year weren't necessarily fun to watch, because they didn't have a ton of offensive firepower. You had SGA, who could do a ton of things on the court. Then you had a bunch of no-names around him, and Poku wasn't doing shit. So I'm sorry, Matthew. I know he's your guy in fantasy. I know you picked him up.
He is not doing anything.
He's not doing anything, so you should just go ahead and drop him.
Well, it's because they're rookie. What's his name? Sorry. What's his name really quick?
Who? On OKC right now?
OKC, yeah. Someone will see the Gems. Yeah. He took over Poku's minutes, so that's why.
Oh, Giddey?
Yeah, Josh Giddey, yeah.
Yeah, Josh Giddey, yeah.
Is it Josh Giddey? Okay.
I think so. But I mean, again, the Josh Giddey? Is it Giddey?
Yeah.
Oh, Giddy up. But again, Houston is a fun team. I don't think at any point I was truly. It's funny because I was watching the game, obviously, and I was focused really on how the Suns were playing, and I'm like, the Suns are playing well. This team's just hitting shots. You look at the second quarter. Houston shot 48% from the field in the second quarter, and the Suns only shot 33%. That's why the Houston Rockets outscored the Suns by 11 in that quarter. And when you have a young team like this, coming from a fan who's watched a young Suns team do the same exact thing in the past, remember those old Suns teams with TJ Warren and Devin Booker? They dropped like a 35-point quarter, and you're like, oh my God, they figured it out. Like, our team's going to be unstoppable. And then like the third quarter would come and they just forgot to play defense. And that's what you saw tonight with Houston. I think that if they keep the core together, and that core would probably be Kevin Porter, Jalen Green, and Christian Wood, you keep those three guys together, this team eventually could be pretty dangerous. You mentioned it, Jalen Green is really, really raw. He's a really good offensive player. He's got a great step back. On defense, he hustles, but he doesn't really know where to go yet. I think that'll come in time. And Kevin Porter's a beast, man. So question for you real quick. Like, were you watching the game on NBA TV, or were you watching the Bally Sports feed?
Oh, Bally Sports.
Okay. So that's what I was doing as well. And I think my favorite part of the game is when Eddie Johnson just kept talking about Kevin Porter's braids.
Yeah.
He's like, if that dude fell asleep, I would cut them off. And he just kept saying, he's like, dude, you have 5 different defenders playing against you. You don't need a 6th one on your face and stuff. I mean, it was just like classic Matthews stepdad, dude, Eddie Johnson, just killing it with the commentary.
Like a guy was just drinking at the bar, and he keeps coming back to the same group with the same story. He's like, you know what? You could do whatever you want with your body, all right? It's your own body. I don't care. But
your body, your party.
Those braids in your face, you sure you want those? Like, I love it, man. That's why I watch him over everything, because those comments and stuff just remind me of myself. Like an older version of me.
Blaze Megatron, another elite jamster in the chat, says vibranium. Yeah, he was talking about vibranium like it was a real thing. Like vibranium's made up. It's in the Marvel universe. It's like what's in Wakanda, and it's what Captain America's shield's made out of. And he's talking about it like I forget what reference, but he's talking about it, and he brought it up later in the game. I mean, it was just fantastic. And then, and then you couple that with I swear every time the camera would be on head coach Steven Silas for the Houston Rockets, he just kind of like had he was like standing. He was always standing, wasn't sitting. And he just had his head down with a scowl and he's just shaking his head like the whole game.
He looked like he was frightened to watch the game.
Yeah,
he looked like he saw something terrible.
Yeah, it's like a car accident. It's like his head's down. He doesn't want to look at it, but he's like looking up and just shaking his head the whole time. And I'm like, and they showed him like
more of those
15 times.
Yeah, you need more of that. Just keep showing that stuff. Have Eddie talk about vibranium and getting haircuts, all that stuff. That's what makes these games kind of flow by faster, right? And shout out to the refs again tonight. A really good ref game. I have to give the shout out whenever we get a good ref game.
That's a really good point. You did it last podcast, and again, I think a big part of that is the fact that so far early in the season, they are not making the call that they said that they were not going to make. You saw 2 or 3 lean-ins. I think it was Eric Gordon had the biggest one where he clearly, pump faked. You got him in the air, and then he like turned sideways and tried to throw up a shot. And he was bitching so much that Landry Shamet had a wide open 3. He missed it, but it was just it's hysterical how these guys are just, it's not a basketball move. And we mentioned this before, but the next basketball move they need to take out is just the foul on the fast break where you're just grabbing a guy. So you do that like the international, like you instill that with what you've done thus far this year. And you're right. I feel like there's less bullshit fouls. So I'm not sitting there keyed in on the refs the whole time. So
no, you don't even know they're
good
there.
on you.
And there's also another thing too, like these guys that are doing the fast break fouls, they're like running into each other trying to foul these guys. Like I was watching the Hornets game last night. It's like, what
I
are
was
you doing?
too.
But and like I know the scoring, I guess, is down to shooting. And Ryan Russillo was talking about it too. He's like, yeah, I wanted to take away like the BS calls where you're trying to jump into people. But the thing is, like these guys would play so far off of everybody in the years past because of that to not be called for those fouls to where now like they're more, they have a chance. They can actually play some defense. So I love the right in the middle. This is basically just right in the middle of the last few years and kind of before. So right now it's looking good. And I'm just very happy we don't have to talk about the fucking refs every game.
Amen. I agree with you. 100.
Even though we are right now.
Well, but we're talking about it in a positive light. We're not sitting here, bitching and moaning about, that was kind of crap.
Yeah.
But, let's change the subject. Let's talk about balls, huh? Wilson balls.
Yes,
so
thank you.
I don't know if you watched the pregame. Did you watch the pregame?
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect. So you'll know what I'm referencing. But in the pregame, they were talking about, to your point, shooting across the NBA is down. And part of that, I think, is, yes, you're finally allowing defenders to play defense, which is fantastic. But the other thing they're talking about, and a lot of conversation has occurred around the NBA, about the new Wilson ball. For those of you who don't know, Spalding is no longer the sponsor of the NBA basketballs. It's Wilson, who I think does the NFL footballs too. And they're talking about how the rubber just doesn't feel the same. And to prove it, both TC and Eddie on the pregame show were trying to palm the ball, and they couldn't palm it because it's so slippery. And I remember back, I think it was like 2006 when they changed the ball in the NBA. I remember it was during the Steve Nash era, and the Suns had a hard time. The whole league had a hard time. And I think after 2 months, they changed the ball. It had a different thread on it and everything. It was still Spalding, but they changed the ball. And obviously they're not going to change the ball this year because Wilson is a completely different company. But it's interesting to see that conversation. That was kind of the first like, oh, wow, moment when I saw Eddie Johnson, his big old fucking hands trying to palm a basketball, and he couldn't.
Yeah, it was like a Walmart ball where you get those cheap ones that are kind of slick, it looks like, and kind of cheesy. That's what it looked like up close. And I never noticed. I know Rod Argent from Bright Side of the Sun actually put out, is the ball the reason these guys are having a hard time shooting? If you're talking about Devin Booker, I feel like it would affect him even more because this guy, of course, that plays 24/7 on his and practicing that jump shot, the release, every grain of his finger just releasing off of that ball, perfect moment, getting it down to a tee. That might affect him to the point to where you might be questioning, of course, the beginning of the season where he's had a hard time hitting those shots. I mean, Devin Booker should be the sponsor of In and Out because a lot of these shots that he's shooting are just in and out. They're off by just a touch.
Just a touch.
And tonight he kind of got it back, but I just think it does affect those kind of players. Maybe like a DA, maybe even a Mikal too. Guys that don't settle for the jumpers as much. It doesn't affect them as much. But Booker, his mid range, his shooting
It's
game,
off,
that's him. So I think it did affect him a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you who has no problem touching those balls, and that's JaVale McGee, man. He looked amazing out there tonight. We mentioned Deandre Ayton a little bit earlier. He fouled or got that fourth foul with 7 minutes left in the third quarter. And when that occurs, enter JaVale McGee. And that was kind of the spark plug that put the Suns on that run to ultimately score 37 points to the Houston Rockets 25 points in the third quarter. I mean, he is so long and had such a great impact on this game, finishing with 11 points on 4 for 8 shooting, 3 for 4 from the free throw line. So kudos to you, JaVale, because it's an adventure when you go there. He had 5 rebounds, and according to the box score, he only had 2 blocks, but I feel like he had like 3 blocks on one play, it felt like. I mean, he was just all over the place, and he led all Suns with a plus 13 when he was in there. What'd you think about JaVale?
Oh, the salt and the SWAT. He was in there, and every block seemed like it was like 10 blocks. So every time we look at the box score and think of blocks, we're always like, oh, this guy at least had 6, but it's always like 1 or 2. But it led to basically the turning point, right, of this game where he was just swatting it. Suns would go on the other end. Booker would hit the shot. Or actually, Booker had a great block, and he took it down, hit the 3 on the other side, on the other end, and everything that what he was doing defensively was just like all out. His enthusiasm, everything. Like he was like, I can get to these balls. These guys are throwing up there. It's lazy ass shots. I'm gonna block. I'm gonna block them. We're gonna have some an easy shot the other end. So that's what he did. He got the Suns back into the game. They took the lead. Everything from there. The crowd got into it. The energy, all of that. And McGee right now is definitely, I think, the fan favorite. When he comes into the game early, the crowd basically just is the loudest out of any player that comes in. I feel like it's always for McGee, and they basically get out of their seats to applaud this guy coming into the game because they love him so much.
Well, he brings the energy.
Favorite. He does, yeah, and we notice it. I mean, after what, 5 games, 6 games? So
yeah. I mean, you always like to have those energy guys coming off the bench. I think the last time that we had somebody with this amount of energy was Rashawn Holmes. And you see when he leaves the game and he's got the handshakes with all the guys already down.
Yeah.
And like, that's the kind of stuff you love to see as a fan, because you know that this team's engaged and you know that they feed off his energy. And when he comes in and he plays that effective defense, that's what the Suns needed. They needed defense to lead to easy offense. And then the run starts. And, so again, kudos to JaVale McGee for his effectiveness. Another great acquisition for the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, Devin Booker, we haven't even talked about him yet. 27 points on 8 of 18 shooting, so not the best field goal percentage, but still 18 points to get 18 shots to get 27 points, 7 for 8 from the free throw line. That's telling you that Devin Booker's being more efficient, and that's all I want from. I love Booker when he's efficient Booker, because if he's not, he's Donovan Mitchell, and I don't want that shit. He was 4 for 8 from downtown too. I think he never hits more than like 2 threes, and he hit 4 tonight. So it was really a great performance by Devin Booker.
Yeah, he was beautiful tonight, and he was setting up his teammates. The only thing is, like, his passes seem like early in games are really, really lazy, and his bounce passes take a little bit longer to get to the guy. There was even one where Jay Crowder came up. It was like almost like a mini fast break, and Booker had the ball, went to the top of the key, and just kind of laid it to just a lazy bounce pass to Jay Crowder. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, get him in rhythm, like hit him in rhythm. Like, some of it's kind of lazy, but he picked it up. He did a lot better in the second half. And that the block leading to the 3, I don't think I've ever seen him like actually after a forced turnover,
was great, man,
and then hit the 3 following up. I don't think he's ever done that. Those are always in and out shots, and it went in, and that might have been the one that really turned the game around. So
yeah,
he was amazing.
That's when the energy really started. And again, defense leads to offense. That's what it's all about, my friend. That is what it's all about.
You can bet on it, bet on it, bet on it, bet on it.
All right, once again, bet on it. We asked the Jamsters on Twitter this morning what we should bet on when it comes to Chris Paul points and assists. It was our nod to Chris Paul for becoming the 3rd all-time assist man in the league. So the line today was 16.5 points and 9.5 assists. So we give you the option of going over on both lines, over on points, under on assist, under on points, over on assists, or under on both. The Jamsters came out. They voted 51.4% said we should go under 16.5 points and over 9.5 assists. So that's where we put our money today. That was a plus 180. And for the first time this season, Matthew, we hit.
Wow.
Because Chris Paul had 9 points and 13 assists in this game. So we made $1.80 back. So what are we at now? Let me pull it up. We are
Minus
we're only down $4.20 now this season. So all right.
We're coming back.
But kudos to Chris Paul. And Eddie Johnson said on the broadcast, and I think it's worth echoing, Chris Paul's really focused early in this season on just getting his teammates involved. And I love to see that. He's not looking for his own shot. He did go 3 for 10. I'm sure his field goal percentage on the season is just crap because he's had a couple of really bad games, but he's also leading the league in assist. And that's what he should be doing, especially at his age right now. He doesn't need to exert any energy trying to get his offensive game going. He knows when to pick and choose his spots. I think one of the best spots he had in the game is the Suns were leading, and then in the second quarter, they gave up the lead. And when they gave up that lead because the bench guys around him were shooting, and he was setting them up, and they were just missing at that point. And then he went down and he hit just like, his standard 16-foot jumper. And that's what Chris Paul's benefit is he's going to take his shots when it's appropriate. Outside of that, he's going to try to get his teammates involved. The point guard, thank you, Jamsters, for picking the right one. And thank you, Chris Paul, for delivering.
Yeah, he doing a great job. Nephew Hayden brought up something. He's like, could we just acknowledge his shoulder probably is still effed up from missing those shots? But right now, you can't really say anything about these guys missing shots. I think a lot of them, and across the NBA, they're having issues. But keep setting up your teammates, man. That's my analysis. He's playing beautiful basketball right now.
It really is. It's a fantastic brand of basketball.
Jam Star of the Game.
All right, Jamsters, this is a reminder, if you're listening, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification on Spotify that lets you know whenever we drop a new episode. And if you're here along live in the chat on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button, and then hit the chat button and let us know who your Jam Star of the Game is. Matthew, I went first last time, so you can tell me who is your Jam Star of the Game.
This guy right here, Devin Booker, the guy behind me. I spoiled it early. I brought him on. He's in my background. And, we both have the same kind of facial hair, kind of. So tonight he is Jam Star of the Game, man. He played great. It was a good Booker game. The first one of the year, I think.
Okay. Well, looking at the chat, Walter Lazo, Shamet. Coda Kid gives it to Shamet. Los Suns gives it to Shamet. Blaze Megatron gives it to JaVale in some book. Eddie gives it to Booker. Fabio gives it to Booker. Shamwell from J Pizzle. So it's, how about this? How about just the 2-guard position today? The 2-guard position, if you combine both Devin Booker and Landry Shamet's performance today, a total of 46 points from those guys combined from our 2-guard. That's pretty goddamn
it's going to win you some games.
That's going to definitely win you some games. So definitely a great job by both of our 2 guards in providing. And, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Sustained offense when Devin Booker leaves the court. You have Landry Shamet coming in, in his 19 minutes played, and he goes for, 19 points. Like, that's exactly what you want, man. That 2-guard spot just keeps cooking. So well done to both of those guys. Mm-hmm. Next game up we have is going to be the Suns versus the Hawks on Saturday, Matthew. Tell me what you think about this one.
I'm excited. I was actually watching the Hawks last night a little bit, and they're struggling this year already. But I think what it is when I'm watching them is, they're so overly confident this year off of last year. And maybe it's what the Suns did too, but a lot of their role players and stuff, they're Herter. These guys they're coming up the court. They're doing a lot of their own things. I don't feel like they have a whole flow to their offense. They're kind of individualized out there to where they're getting their own shot. They're just jacking up these random threes. They're they're basically trying to play their own game to where like, hey, we were good last year. This ought to work, right?
Mhm.
Like this, let's just change it up this way to where we can all focus on us individually, and we'll get stats. Maybe we'll have 3 all-stars this year, something like that. That's what it seems like when I'm watching them. So I think more Trae Young takes over that offense, the more they get comfortable, and they're a shooting team. So of course everyone's having a hard time shooting right now. So
Mhm.
those are things I just noticed watching them last game. But I'm excited for this one, man, because I think Trae Young. Whoa. Whoa. Trae Young, of course, is exciting to watch, but this is a team in the East that's trying to get things together, and they're trying to get things together against the Suns this next game after their last big loss against the Brooklyn Nets.
Mhm.
So it's going to be a tough game for the Suns, and I'm excited to see the Suns' response too.
Tough stretch for the Hawks. I mean, so they're 4-5 right now. You mentioned that they lost at Brooklyn, and then they lost tonight against the Utah Jazz, and then they play the Suns. That's a rough,
Yeah,
that's a
welcome
rough
to the
trip.
West.
Yeah, seriously, man.
Yeah.
You look at the team again, as I mentioned, 4-5. Trae Young is shooting. He's making 8 of his 19.6 field goals per game. He's averaging 22.6, so he's not overly efficient. What's interesting when you go and you look kind of up and down this roster, to your point, Matthew, like this is a roster that is literally the same roster from last year. I think the only thing that they did as far as adding people who are getting any minutes at least is Gorgie Jang is playing for him now. But everyone else, their top 9 guys are, Trae Young, John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, Cam Reddish, Kevin Werder, Danilo Gallinari, Solomon Hill. So these are all guys. This is a team that should know who they are, and they're just kind of going through the same thing. They're a little bit of hero ball, to your point, and much akin to the rest of the league. They're having a hard time shooting the ball. You look at how they shape up when it comes to the rest of the league. When it comes to 3-point shooting, they're right in the middle. They shoot 35%. 2-point percentage, they're right around 50%, which is 24th in the league. When you look at kind of how they measure up when it comes to offensive rating, they're currently 8th in the league, but they are 22nd in defensive rating. So they have a net rating of it's flat. It's 0. So they're 15th in the league. So, again, a team that's definitely you can't take lightly in any way, shape, or form. It's an explosive team. It's a smart team. It's a team that definitely has played together. They can play both sides of the ball, although they definitely are more of an offensive team. But when you have Clint Capella down in the paint, you're not going to get a lot of free passes down in the paint when you're playing against the Atlanta Hawks. So that's going to be a really, really fun one. What's our final prediction on this one? What do we lock in our pick'em versus fanning the Flames?
Oh, man.
Let's talk about
for some
this.
reason I want to go Hawks. I don't know why. I could just see kind of like a letdown game, and even though it's going to be a tougher matchup, I could say Hawks. I think I'm going to go Hawks, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. I'm going to go Hawks.
No, I mean, this is a game that we're playing against fanning the Flames. We're trying to beat them. We didn't put a bet or anything on it, but I kind of think that you're right. I think this is a team that's up against the wall. They lost to Brooklyn. They lost to Utah. I'm pretty sure that we're the next team. I don't think they're let me look real quick because I want to make sure it's not a back-to-back, because if they're playing a back-to-back against us, then I definitely will go Suns on that. But let's see. So they played Utah. Yeah.
Well, they're not playing tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what day of the week is, man.
I don't know what day it is.
God, down, sat on the bench. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Suns loss. That's what I'll lock in.
Okay.
Of course, we want them to win, but I think the Hawks are gonna take this one. So,
all right, that sucks.
Are you gonna be at this game?
Yeah, I'll be at the game.
That's
so
awesome.
If any Jamsters there see me, come say hi.
Come say hi. Yeah, make sure you bring some stickers with you. You can hand them out to the Jamsters. So I will be hosting this one without Matthew on Saturday. The guest host is TBD. I might have some surprises for you. I'm gonna have Eddie on. We're going to talk about
Eddie? Oh, it's this guy right here.
Yeah.
Justin, he's going to be the guest host.
Yeah, maybe.
He's not doing anything.
No, it's Saturday night. Justin's out there partying, man. He likes to get crunk, as the kids say. So, but that'll be a fun game no matter what. I really hope the Suns pull it out. But again, we got to beat. So says Jay. And I didn't listen to their podcast yet. I'll be listening to that on my plane.
Oh, he said we picked the same thing. So I'm assuming he picked the Hawks. Should we go Suns?
I haven't listened to it yet.
I'll be at the game, so I want to win. I got to be there. The experience is gonna be great. It's gonna be a blowout win for the Suns.
We're going Suns. We're locking it in. We got to go against these guys. So yeah, I haven't listened to their pod. I'll be listening to it on my flight to Dallas to Phoenix tomorrow. So looking forward to coming home. That's for darn sure. Anything else that I missed? Anything else that you want to talk about before we get out of here, Matthew?
You know what, John? We covered almost everything up and down for this game. I think I'm good, dude.
damn-
Shout out to Cam Johnson, good game. But besides that, it's been a wonderful night.
It
here in
was a good.
Phoenix.
I mean,
Good
there was,
night.
when you score 123 points and you win by 12 and you cover, it's a good night all around. We couldn't get to every player, but everyone played well. It was the first. In fact, I wrote it. I did the game preview for Bright Side of the Sun today. Dave was actually at the game, so he covered it, which I love that, especially because I'm an hour ahead right now. So whatever time it is in your world, I'm an hour ahead of that. And I wrote that for my prediction. I'm like, this is the game where we're finally going to put it together. And tonight the Suns put it together. So on that note, we thank you, Jamsters, whether you're listening or you're watching along live. It's always fun to hang out with you wherever you're at, wherever we're at. We're happy that we could do this every chance we can after every game. Again, subscribe, rate, and review. If you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, if it's a 5-star review, I mean, you can leave us a 1-star and trash us. I'm not going to read it, but if you leave us a 5-star review, we'll read it right here on the show. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button. If you are on YouTube and you've made it this far in the podcast, give yourself a thumbs up, hell. And we'll see you on Saturday night. And by we, I mean me. So
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone go home and love your family.
I can't wait to go home and love my family. Take care, everybody.